Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm not sure when you're going to watch this video, if at all. To you, Tandeka, Palisa, Susan, Cyril, and Lebogang. We had a discussion last week, Thursday, at our offices through Microsoft Teams, of course, virtual meeting during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, about, amongst others, socialism and capitalism. We ran out of time, and we just briefly touched on the topic in respect of the two systems and the question which one is the better one. Now I'd like to add a couple of thoughts to what was said last week, Thursday. Now, before I start with my arguments, I should maybe just read the definition of socialism on the one hand and capitalism on the other hand that you can find in Wikipedia. Socialism is defined as a political, social, and economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production and workers' self-management of enterprises. Now, what I would like to add to this definition, and that's primarily what I mean by referring to socialism, is the government controlled element of socialism. As far as I understand the socialist system anywhere in the world, pretty much in all of those cases, the control is not with the workers. At the end of the day, the control to a large extent is with government, and that's where my problem is. In other words, government in the case of socialism is in control of the means of production, and that's where the problem starts. Capitalism, on the other hand, is an economic system, according to, once again, Wikipedia, based on the private ownership of the means of production and the operation for profit. Characteristics central to capitalism include private property, capital accumulation, wage labor, voluntary exchange, a price system, and competitive markets. Now, what I would like to add once again to this definition is the free market economy aspect of capitalism. So in the case of socialism, when I refer to socialism, I primarily refer to the fact that government is in control of the means of production. When I refer to capitalism, I primarily refer to the free market economy aspect thereof, which I think is extremely important and the answer to pretty much everything, specifically poverty. Let me explain. And let me maybe start with the basics. We as humans all have our basic needs. We need, for example, food on the table. We need shelter. We also have advanced needs, such as you want to look after your spouse, you want to look after your children, give them a good education. You need a car to drive around. You need insurance, life insurance, for in case something happens to you, so that your family is looked after. You need short-term insurance for in case something happens to your belongings. You need to build up a pension, etc. Now, how are all these needs that we have satisfied? They are satisfied by resources that we have to satisfy those needs. Now, these resources, contrary to what socialists seem to think, don't just exist. These resources have to be created, and they are, to a large extent, I believe, created by labor of humans, work, and by efficiencies. That's how the cake is created. It doesn't just fall from the sky and then it's suddenly there and now someone can dish it out to everybody to be happy. It doesn't work like that. It's got to be created, the cake, so that it can be shared. Right, so you have the basic needs of all humans and you have resources that you need to be able to satisfy those needs. Now, the next very important reality that one needs to understand is that we humans are by nature selfish. We not angels. Sorry to disappoint you. So we by nature primarily care for ourselves and not other people. So if there is not an incentive for you to work or to be efficient, you're not going to work and you're not going to be efficient. Once again, sorry to disappoint you, but that's the reality. Right, so once you understand their needs, you need resources, and people are by nature selfish, they need incentives. The next question, of course, is what system is the best system to ensure that people are hardworking, that they are motivated to be efficient, so that the cake is created much bigger, so that everybody can benefit, including the poor, or actually especially the poor, because there is much more wealth to share for everybody. Now, this brings me to the two systems as mentioned at the beginning, socialism and capitalism. Now, capitalism, without doubt, free market economy, makes people work harder and smarter. Socialism, on the other hand, has no incentive for people to work longer hours, to work harder, to be efficient, because they are rewarded in the same way. They pretty much get the same salary whether they work harder and more efficient or not. Let me give you some examples. A very recent one now, with the lockdown on level 4 now here in South Africa. We moved from level 5 to level 4 on the 1st of May. We had 5 business days now, Monday to Friday last week. From Velden-Duffey, our firm, of course, opened its doors on Monday, first day that it was possible to do so. Offices had been sanitized. Our measures were in place as prescribed by government to protect all the workers. Everybody screened that comes into the office, so we were ready to work. In fact, most of us worked fairly productively even during the level 5 lockdown from home. On the other hand, our Magistrates Court in Rustenburg, the Masters Court in Mafeking in Pretoria and Johannesburg, with whom we work on a daily basis, the High Court, the Deeds Office in Pretoria, all of them, of course, have not yet opened their doors, even though legally they could do so. Why is that? Because there's no real incentive for them to do so. Whether they worked this week or not, whether they were efficient this week or not, they are going to get their salary at the end of the month, as all government employees always do, irrespective of their performance. So that's just a little example of how incentives motivate people to either act, to work, or not to act, to sit at home and do nothing. There are numerous other examples in the world, in the history of the world, that can also demonstrate this fact. Look at North and South Korea. Same people, Koreans. After a number of years, they had two systems. South, primarily free market economy. North, primarily government controlled, which is the country that has a lot less poverty than the other one, of course, the South. Same applies to West and East Germany. In 1990, after the Cold War, the wall came down in Berlin, etc. Two systems. East Germany, government control. West Germany, to a large extent, free market economy. Which had a lot more wealth? In which country was the standard of living much higher than in the other one? Of course, West Germany. Look at what happened in China once they freed up their economy. Tremendous economic prosperity and growth to the benefit of everybody, including the poorest of the poor. What happened, on the other hand, in Venezuela once you get government-controlled economic activities? All goes down the drain. What happens in South Africa once government is in charge in terms of corporations, companies, Eskom, SAA, Prasa, Denel, Transnet, SABC, you name them, all of them are pretty much bankrupt. Why? Not because it's necessarily bad people running it. It's because the system is not right. There's no incentive for these companies to be successful, because if they're not, they simply get more taxpayers' money to cover the losses. So why should they work harder and smarter? Capitalism is not the perfect system. Obviously, it also has its weaknesses. And I obviously also understand that there is some government intervention and government initiative necessary in certain cases. Government needs to take care of certain services and products, but those should be limited as far as possible. Socialism can maybe on the short term help a couple of poor people more than capitalism maybe, but you've got to be cruel to be kind. You've got to be prepared to postpone gratification. On the long run, capitalism is much better for the poor people. It helps them on the long run. It gives them a job for life instead of looking after them for maybe a couple of weeks or so till the money runs out. Another very important point that I want to make is the fact that capitalism, free market economy, is actually the biggest and most efficient democracy that exists. Let me explain. Every time you swipe your card, every time you click on that buy button on Amazon or wherever you make your online shoppings, you actually vote for a company because that company provided you with a product or a service that is good value for money and that's going to satisfy one of your needs at the right price. So as long as you have a free market economy, as long as you have competition, you will always have a very effective democracy, once again, in that everybody votes for those companies that deserve it because they satisfy your needs at the best price, and any company that fails to do so is immediately punished, not at the next election or whenever that might be. Immediately, that company that doesn't deliver a good product and a good service at the right price will not get any money. So why go for socialism? Capitalism is the answer. It's once again the biggest and most efficient democracy that will ever exist. So yeah, I hope I have made some progress to convince the 5 of you to rather go for capitalism and not socialism. The next question is, of course, how and why is this relevant for our firm, von Velden-Duffey? Obviously, we are not into politics, we're not into running economies of the world, we're into running a legal firm in Rustenburg. Now, my argument is that these same principles that apply to the economies of countries in the world also apply to any business like ours. So what we need to do is apply these principles to our business as well. We need to have incentives for our employees to work harder and smarter. And I think we've made some fairly good progress over the last couple of years with our commission systems. They work very well. Debt collection department, property law department, with deceased estates, with wills. We have incentives also with litigation. We have certain incentives, and they motivate our staff. Look at what happened with the referral of wills from other departments to the cricket department. Once we had an incentive for the staff to do so, suddenly we get a lot of referrals which we never got before, despite the fact that the opportunities had always been there. So that's unfortunately the reality. People only act if there's an incentive for them to do so, and that incentive needs to be something that they benefit from. That's how it unfortunately works. Now, those incentives don't necessarily have to be in the form of monetary rewards. They can also be recognition in the form of prizes, or just complimenting your staff if they do well, and obviously also talking to them if they fail to do so. So that's how we can ensure that we have a motivated staff corps, and make sure that we deliver an excellent service to our client, high quality at all times, at once again the right price. What we could also do, as another example of how socialism doesn't work, is maybe implement a new system whereby all employees, including the directors at Velden-Duffey, get the same pay, irrespective of your contributions. You get the same pay end of the month. I guess you'd like that. Wonderful. Everybody's happy. Everybody's treated equally, etc. Now, will that help us? Will that help the future of the company on the long run? Of course not. Might work for 2 or 3 months, but thereafter people won't have any motivation anymore to work harder and more efficient. There has to be differentiation. You got to make a difference between your performers and your non-performers, and you need to reward them accordingly. Otherwise, you will never succeed on the long run as a business in the country. So I really want to ask the 5 of you to buy into what I've just told you and be part of that challenge, and to accept that challenge. If you're not prepared to accept that challenge, maybe you must somewhere resign next week and find somewhere else to work. But I'm pretty confident that all 5 of you are prepared to accept that challenge and work with us, work hard, work efficient, and have a lot of fun whilst doing that. That's also an important point. The staff members enjoy these challenges at the end of the day. Obviously, it puts more pressure on them, and it's not always nice. But on the long run, if you have the right formulas, if you are fair with your performance-based remuneration, they actually enjoy the challenge, and they enjoy the rewards, and they have fun, achieving those goals that we set for them. So please accept that challenge so that you can make a major difference together with us, and I hope all 5 of you are going to remain with Van Velden-Duffey, build up a much bigger and even more successful legal firm as what we already have. That's basically my story. Thanks for listening to me. Have a great day.